Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or it's 2 a.m. Go to bed already. This is the last information-filled Eagle Eyes on Tech of 2016, and I am Eagle Falcon. Yes, the last time in 2016 I will be giving you information and my opinions about said information in 2016. Next week we are off for the Christmas holiday. The week after that, on New Year's Eve, will be the prediction show where we look back on my predictions I made at the end of 2015 and then make the predictions for 2017. But enough of that. Let's get into the news. So right off the bat, I had to grab this article. Just because the headline itself is something you do feel you need to talk about, in the regard that this headline has to be made. The headline reads, and this is from PC Per, "Stop paying the ransomware, you idiots. You get nothing back and encourage them to continue." Do you even need to read the rest of the article? The headline says it all. Which, first off, just shows how good of a headline it is. But I'll be real honest. Between me and every other tech mind in the world going, you know, if you find a window that opens up and asks you to pay it money, don't. It seemed like half the population was telling the other half to stop doing that. You'd think with odds like that ransomware would stop being effective, but nope. It's starting to become comical how on the rise ransomware is. And this has been out for, 5 years? 6 years? 7? 8? What was the first piece of ransomware I saw? I think 2007. So yeah, 9 years at least. But here's what boils down to. If, for whatever reason, you see a window pop up, and the common trend now is actually having it be a pop-up ad, instead of it actually being a Trojan horse downloaded onto your machine. If something comes up and says, you're infected, or your system is compromised, or we're the FBI, and blah, 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 you need to call this number and pay us, blah, blah, blah. Don't! It is this simple. And before any of you start emailing me saying, "Oh, Eagle, you don't understand. The elderly are so easily confused by this. It's just so easy for them to just not know any better." If I can tray my grandmother to look at ransomware and say, "You're full of BS," and close it, you can too. It's just don't. Though I will give the ransomware guys a bit of credit. It's fortunately because of them that every other attempt at other viruses have almost completely vanished. Yeah, there's a few worms and Trojan horses popping around out there for the sole purpose of infecting your computer and becoming one with their botnet. But most of them now, it's your malicious attacks are either A, phishing attacks, or B, ransomware. And I, for one, am actually grateful for that. Ransomware attacks are a lot easier to fix than the other ones. Actually, I take that back. Ransomware is actually very difficult to fix. Ransomware, though, is very easy to prevent. So, this concludes our first public service announcement for the day. Let's move on to our second one. So, if you somehow don't know, I wasn't even going to talk about it until I found out just how blatant this problem is on the Android system. Mario Run, or is it Super Mario Run? I'm not sure. Mario Run is now available on iOS. So those of you who have an iPad or an iPhone, yeah, go ahead. Start laughing at every single Mario fanboy who has an Android phone. You've got it. You've got the edge on them. Because right now, let's just get this out of the way. Mario Run is not available for Android at all. There's not a version out there at all for Android. Now, that's not going to stop a ton, underline a ton, of various companies trying to make Mario Run clones. One that CNET talked about was called Mario Run Jumper, which was rather than horizontal Flappy Birds, it was a vertical Flappy Birds. Hooray! Then trying to look up that exact same app to talk about, I found Jumper Mario Run, which, I mean, I don't even know what to say to this. I mean, the icon itself is green overalls with a green leprechaun hat. This guy with, like, the gnarliest red dwarf beard, red underalls. It doesn't even come remotely close to representing Mario, other than the fact that he is, in fact, in overalls. And then you look through the pictures, there's 4. In fact, there's not even. They claim they have 4 pictures. They have 3. 2. They have 2 pictures. Over and over again. It just reeks of just bad. Now, the reason I bring this up is that a lot of people are trying to convince you that there is a Mario Run app file out there for Android you can sideload in. Spoiler, there isn't. One does not exist. They are trying to get you to download malware and have your phone be part of the botnet. Or actually legitimately infect your phone, take control of it, and then just do all sorts of fun stuff with your phone. So, we got it under control now. Don't pay ransomware. And don't sideload Android applications. Sideloading Android applications used to be a fun thing to do. Trust me, I've done it back when Hearthstone was unavailable for Android phones, and I tricked and sideload Hearthstone onto my phone, the tablet version. That was a ton of fun. But just don't. The risks outweigh the rewards 10,000 to 1. Let's shift gears a bit. Uber. So for a while, Uber seemed to be kind of playing it straight. Let's go over the history for a minute. Uber is the, quote, ride-sharing app that allows drivers to share their cars and their rides with other paying customers and have them pay through the application digitally. Basically, Uber is a taxi service recruiting in other drivers, basically as owner-operators, where they own the vehicle and manage everything, and are paid by the mile. And granted, as far as owner-ops go, Uber kind of pays a little bit on the low side, but it's still a nice opportunity. Now, Uber kept flying under the radar from the get-go, claiming, "We're not a taxi service, we're a ride-sharing service," and this was just BS. And trying to skate under this technicality still didn't make legislators look at them and go, but you're a taxi. No, it's their car. So you're an owner-operator taxi. You're a taxi co-op. No, it's ride-sharing. And it's just, they tried all these semantics, and in the end, there was a bit of a compromise in which the legislators pretty much completely caved and allowed Uber to exist. The same sort of fight went down here in my own home in Milwaukee. Uber just kind of rolled in and said, like, yeah, we're operating here now. And our legislator pretty much just lifted the taxi limitations, the taxi limits on the licenses, and just said, okay, we'll issue any number of taxi licenses, but Uber, you still got to get a license. Like, oh, okay. And in the end, all it did was actually increase the number of taxis and not increase the number of Uber drivers. And then, of course, there's been other, as Unjust Banana in the chat just pointed out, there have been other legal fights in which other, I can't remember exactly who it was. I can't remember if it was union leaders or other legislators that were arguing that Uber has employees. Uber was saying, no, they're contractors. And in that regard, I kind of had mixed feelings, because in every way they operate, it was an owner-op sort of operation, but the one key thing that was missing, which Unjust also pointed out, was the fact that drivers couldn't negotiate the prices, which they should be able to do if they are in fact running an owner-operation, an owner-op, or a co-op sort of layout. So that's the history. Uber has pretty much just been flying in the face of laws and legalities at every turn it could. Going, but we're changing the world. So suck it. That's pretty much how Uber has been operating. And as much as I like Uber for certain aspects that it does, there are others that stand out as just kind of, come on, guys. Come on. Price negotiations and the fact that Uber would rather teabag legislatures than work with them, being the two biggest ones. So now we go to now. Uber has launched its self-driving vehicles in San Francisco. The way this outfit would operate, and I'm going to go through the details only because I legitimately cannot remember if I talked about it last week or not, is that Uber will be using a modified Volvo sedan. Or not a sedan, words. I'm going to go a small SUV until I can remember. Station wagon! A modified station wagon that is equipped with several scanners, LiDAR, and self-driving technology. The cars are basically autonomous, but Uber does have, quote, technicians, unquote, and the only reason I'm going to keep that in quotes is because Uber has a bad habit of misusing words to the point where it wouldn't surprise me at all if the term technician is basically the equivalent of what I do for a living, just a guy who drives that kind of knows how to work computers too. Where the driver is going to be in the driver's seat, ready to take over the self-driving vehicle at a moment's notice. All fine and good. One problem. California's DOT requires companies using self-driving cars to have a self-driving car permit. And first off, I dislike California for its regulations for a lot of different reasons. A lot of them are very nanny stating, just over the top, completely unnecessary. This one I agree with. You are talking about multiple ton vehicles that are just in the hands of experimental technology. You should pay for a permit so that you can be monitored and report when something goes wrong. Companies should not be able to just put experimental technology like self-driving just on the road with just willy-nilly. They should have to sign up for not an application. I just had the word and I already lost it. Permit. They should have to go through for a permit. No doubt about it. Now, Uber's claim in this, and I was just getting to it, but Unjust already beat me to it, is that they're saying, oh, it's semi-autonomous because we have a driver behind the wheel waiting to take over at a moment's notice. Yeah, so does every single autonomous vehicle on the road today. First off, the claim that it's semi-autonomous is BS. Semi-autonomous means that there's certain environments that it can't handle. Currently, there's two. There's two big ones that are talked about. In city and on highway. The Freightliner Inspiration, which is a 40-ton semi-truck, a self-driving semi-truck by Freightliner, is semi-autonomous. It can currently only handle being autonomous on the freeways. The moment it goes onto side streets, city streets, or even into a truck stop, manual control must be taken. These Uber cars, because they are designed to handle the city streets, the much harder of the two streets to navigate, it would fall under being fully autonomous. The fact that they have someone there to take over at a moment's notice as a safeguard does not make it any less autonomous. And even then, let's then pretend, ignore everything I just said, and let's just say they're semi-autonomous. So what? It is still experimental technology. Powering 2 to 3 tons of steel, aluminum, and everything else that Volvo is made out of. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have to side with the Californian government 100% here. I don't know how Uber honestly thinks they can get away with this. I can kinda see, oh, but we're a ride-sharing service, not a taxi. We shouldn't have to worry about those silly regulations. I can kinda see your argument there. It's still bad, but I kinda see it. This I don't. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, I need to talk about the surge of AMD information that's coming out at the last minute. And also a lot of the changes to this gaming streaming site you might have heard of. Don't know if you've heard about it. This streaming gaming site known as Twitch. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, Eagle Falcon here. I just wanted to talk for a minute about everything that's actually happened since we started. Now, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I did miss Eagle Eyes on Tech's anniversary. I know. I feel bad too. But it's not only the fact that I missed the anniversary on October 20th, which I'm now saying now so I don't forget for next time, but it's also I'm actually closing in on my other hobbies and anniversary. If you don't know, I stream on Twitch, and if you actually do enjoy my content here on Eagle Eyes on Tech, you really should check me out on twitch.tv/eagle_falcon, where every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday we go through and just play games, have fun, play along with some Jackbox games on some days, go through campaigns, and just kind of laugh along, crack jokes, and it's just a great, grand old time. So be sure to check me out there, and we will be getting back to some actual serious tech news very, very soon. Like right now. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. So a few last points about the self-driving car. And those would be what the self-driving car would mean for businesses, though. In the taxi incident, it would be a godsend until a crash would occur. And then it becomes a legal nightmare as to who's held responsible. The company who's operating the cars, or the manufacturer, or the software developer. And then it just becomes a mess. Then At least with a human, you know who the responsibility falls on. The human element. The operator. Now, in the shipping business, on the other hand, it's going to be an extremely long time until the driver is taken out of the equation in the freight business. Mainly because, first off, someone's got to be there to line up the dock. Someone's got to be there to unload the machine. Someone's got to be there to check everything. Someone's got to be there to keep track of all the paperwork. The role of the driver then is going to more than likely be booking additional shipments and being more of a driver manager while on the road rather than staring out a window all day. All right, let's move off from self-driving cars and trucks and move on to something stupider. And that's going to be prescription lenses for Snapchat's spectacles. I mean, first off, I still want to know, who are these people that want this? Seriously, who are these people? The other thing is that there's just so many things to say about this, and I don't even know where to start. I mean, first off, the spectacles still look so stupid. These are the dumbest looking sunglasses I have seen in the longest time. Second, the world rejected Google Glass and all of its privacy concerns. But the moment you add a second camera, now it's okay. I just... It rattles my brain. And now, granted, if these are going to exist, it's good that a prescription option is out there. And that it would be relatively cheap so that those who need a prescription in their eyewear can see clearly. I just can't believe this is still a thing. It's still out there. I do love the theories that are coming through on the chat. That it's symmetrical, unlike glass, therefore it's better. Apparently. Let's actually get to something more fascinating, though. Finally, we have a real name for AMD's CPUs. So AMD, we have known about codename Zen for over a year now, I want to say. I want to say that I'm pretty sure there's been Zen rumors since I started doing this podcast. But now finally, AMD is not only acknowledging it exists, but it has given it a real name. For those of you who don't know, these sort of processors, while they have an internal name, it almost never becomes the actual name of the processor. For example, we had Intel Nehalem, that eventually became the very first Core i7. And eventually Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge. Haswell, Broadwell, Skylake, and now Kaby Lake have all come down the road. The new Zen CPUs, the CPUs that might, keyword here is might, finally make AMD relevant in the CPU world is Ryzen. On one hand, the name is definitely going to ring with the gamers. I don't think it's going to ring for anyone else. I mean, the Core i3, i5, and i7 line, that was kind of a silly name too, but at least you were able to pin down which one was which one was more powerful than which one, most of the time. Just saying Ryzen, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go over with the common non-tech savvy users. Now, it's not a slouch, fortunately. We're talking up to 3.4 gigahertz on the clock speed, 8 cores with a hyperthreading-like technology bringing 16 threads. This should be able to compete with Intel's highest-end processors. I don't know if it's going to compete with Intel's Enthusiast line, but it should, at the very least, be able to compete with the Kaby Lakes. I mean, time will tell. But I'm hoping. I'm really, really hoping. I mean, as much as I use Intel and NVIDIA for all my stuff, I want AMD to be competitive again so badly. And unfortunately, AMD is very quickly falling out of the graphic card market. I mean, nowhere near as badly as they're falling out of the CPU market, mind you. But right now, AMD's most powerful graphic card just stops at the mid-range for NVIDIA. Right now in the AMD world, nothing can touch the 1070 and the 1080. I mean, the Fury X can get close to the 1070, but it's nowhere near as power efficient, which is in turn going to make NVIDIA pretty lazy. They're just going to be like, whatever. We can just go ahead and release this same thing again with a little bit of a slight alteration. And that's not how we advance forward. And to answer some questions in the chat. The reason they're not going to call it the Athlon something is because they used AMD dragged their Athlon name through the mud when they started naming their 5 and 10 watt Atom competitors the Athlon. So this isn't like back in 2004, 2005 where the Athlon was considered a power processor. As of late, the AMD Athlon is just nothing. And even Skankhunt 42 over in the Mob Crush chat has the right idea. Without competition, innovation declines. No progress is therefore made. So, here's hoping. But I'll tell you what, there was one thing I really did hope AMD would get rid of, and unfortunately, the motherboard we saw from 2 weeks ago confirmed it, and now AMD itself has definitely confirmed it. That stupid, terrible plastic retention bracket system they're using to hold down the heatsink. If you've ever built with an AMD processor, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That piece of garbage that you almost needed a second set of hands just to hold down the heatsink while you had to carefully bring down this lever to hook around a plastic hook. And every time you did it, you're just like, oh god, maybe this is the time the plastic's gonna finally break. That is still here. Which is a shame. I mean, AMD, you want to have me consider you again for builds? You gotta kill that. Kill it dead. You just gotta. But in the end, there's supposed to be a huge performance improvement, precision performance, power consumption decreased. Hopefully, it all holds true. Let's talk about the Radeon software update. This actually released, or actually, bits of this leaked out, I should say, and has now officially been released. There's quite a few interesting bits of story to this. The AMD Radeon, what do you call it? Radeon Software Crimson Relot. I'm not sure if they're calling it Relive or Relive. I'm going to say Relive, just because of certain features that we'll get to in a minute, has now been released. This brings a few things. First off, it does bring minor, and I do mean minor, performance increases. Still extremely welcome. We're talking between 4 to 8% performance increases. Which, you know, for a software update to just come out without adjusting anything, just increasing efficiency on the driver side to increase performance like that, props to you. Well done. Well done indeed, AMD. But now, Radeon Relive also introduces a built-in capture and streaming feature. Now, NVIDIA's had this for a while in what's called shadow play. But I'll be real honest, as someone who does stream live content and record it, I'm going to say as a hobby. In fact, yes, I'm going to continue saying it as a hobby because that's the correct thing. I've played around with NVIDIA's shadow play feature. I didn't like it. It was cute. It put a lot less stress on the system, but there was a lot less you could do with it. The Relive for Radeon is a lot more flexible than shadow play. It is able to stream to more what's the right term I'm looking for? More streaming services it can stream to. You can actually add overlays, very similar to what I do here with OBS. And that's basically it. It can also take your webcam theme just like shadow play. I am now very quickly losing words, and that's becoming a problem. But we're going to deal through it. And now, really, the Radeon settings are a lot there's a lot more there than with Shadowplay. Shadowplay is very dumbed down. Now, maybe for some of you out there, this would be an ideal feature. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. The main reason I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole is first off, I've gotten used to using OBS. And I actually like the feature set I have with OBS Studio. Second, with Radeon Relive, you can't simulcast. With the setup I have here, I can. If you don't know this, I simulcast on now 8 outlets. Twitch.tv, YouTube, Beam, Hitbox, StreamMe, Azubu, Dailymotion. I think I'm wrong. That's actually 9. Mob Crush, and Periscope. You couldn't do that on this. Though granted, AMD does allow the ability to live stream to Facebook, which is one area I can't do yet. I mean, heck, I'm still trying to get the live chat from Periscope going here. So actually, if you're watching this on Periscope and trying to ask questions to me, I'm sorry. I just can't see it. Now, the last feature that Radeon Crimson allows is what's called Radeon Chill. While a lot of the other Radeon Crimson features were a lot more robust and actually required you to go through the settings and kind of tweak them to your specific liking, Chill is extremely dumbed down. Basically, you turn Chill on or off. While it's on, performance is decreased by a slight amount as it decreases the voltage and the power consumption by a lot. This has the GPU run cooler. It has the overall system run with a lot less power. And is in the end safer. Now, how much of a power decrease are we talking about? Unfortunately, I can't take the credit for this. Mainly because I don't have any Radeon cards. However, my good buddies over at PC Per did do some power testing with it. They got a rig that normally takes 300 watts down to under 100. It was 97 watts with Chill on. And that's impressive. That could be extremely useful if you're in a situation where you're at a LAN party and you have a limited amount of power you can use, trying to run it off solar panels, something of that sort of oddball nature, but also just on the off chance that you're just running this in the middle of summer and it's piping hot and you just don't want to flip a circuit breaker while you got an AC unit running and the rig on the same power on the same breaker. Just flip Chill on, you can still game pretty well. It's not going to pump out anywhere near as much heat, and you're not going to flip the breaker. Some interesting use cases for this. But in any case, that's going to conclude our look at AMD for now. And we're going to go through a lot of various predictions for this. But let's talk about Twitch for a minute. I normally don't talk too much about Twitch on here, unless it's something that is really a game changer in the Twitch universe. In case you somehow don't know this, even though I just mentioned earlier, I do stream on Twitch. That is my primary streaming location. That's where easily I have the most amount of viewers. that's going to be the first place I introduce anything sort of new, and that's where any sort of fun bots are going to be. It's going to be on twitch.tv eagle_falcon. So any sort of changes Twitch does affect how I and a lot of other people do their content. And one thing that shifted was the dashboard. Oh boy. So I'm going to drag the dashboard over here and let you see exactly how my dashboard is. So, as you can see, we're now going to start getting a kind of ripple effect. You have now these blocks. One is announcements. One is the stream information where you change your title. We have another one here that says the stream health. Our current hosts. We currently have 2 on Twitch. We have our video preview, and this video preview actually annoys me the most. Hands down, it annoys me the most. And then we have the stats here, which the stats manage to do everything in their power to be as inaccurate as possible. And I don't know how they screwed this up. Before, the dashboard's viewer count was already notoriously off. But now it's so much worse. Now, viewers, it says we have 3. I believe that. I believe that to be 100% true. The view time, though, it says we've been up for 1 hour and 8 minutes. This, for once, is actually true. Normally, this number locks up. 0 clips being taken, I have no idea if that's true. Views, this never updates. Follower count, it never updates. Never. Then here's your chat. Then here's, of course, the chat. Now, the nice thing with this layout is that you can move things around and just say like, oh, the chat's more important. I want to drag that over here. You can do that. The thing I hate about this is that this thing is so buggy. And one of the worst things for me is, in fact, the video preview, no matter how many times you mute this thing, before you muted it once, it would stay muted. Which for me is important, because I don't need an 8-second delayed echo. Nobody does. I'm sure down the road, this dashboard's going to grow on me. They'll work out the quirks, and in the end, I'll praise it. More than likely. But right now, it just feels like such a mess. No other dashboard is this comically buggy and bad. Now let's talk about the other big update. And this was the IRL game category. Twitch, unlike a lot of other gaming streaming sites, allows for non-gaming content. For example, they used to have gaming talk shows, now it's just talk shows. But talk shows now, under their guidelines, this technically doesn't count as a talk show, even though it is a show in which I talk to you about a subject. That now technically falls under the category of IRL, even though IRL is something that is implied to be video blogging. And it's already that there I have a problem. If you're going to imply that talk shows are in fact talk shows, then you shouldn't have guidelines saying that talk shows have to be 2 or more people, because a good chunk of actual talk shows outside of this streaming world are in fact solo talk shows where there's only one host and occasionally a producer chimes in. And then of course calls or questions are answered from an audience or from callers. But the community guidelines now fall that under this topic IRL, in real life, which is clearly implied as just vlogging, saying I'm going to go take this phone, stare at me right here, and say, oh my god, life sucks. And that's not to belittle those who do live blog. But the main point I want to say is that what they're saying and what their guidelines are two drastically different things here. Now, this same blog post also talks about mobile broadcasting, as in being able to stream to Twitch from your Twitch app on your phone. This isn't out yet. This is coming next year. So it's going to be very similar to how Periscope works. So for that, we'll see how things shake out. Now, the only bit of Twitch news that actually came out this week I'm not going to be able to talk about, because I couldn't find the article for it, is the auto mod. And this isn't really much. It's just automatic filtering for mods. Like, say, if I set my auto mod to block out hate speech, your message would automatically be held, and then a moderator would have to approve or deny it. I couldn't find an article about that to talk about in depth, but that also launched. Now let's get to the most controversial Twitch news. So, it's no secret Twitch is out to try and find new ways to increase revenue. For the most part, Twitch gains revenue pretty much 2 ways. 1, advertisements. 2, a cut of streamer subscriptions. A while back, Twitch tried adding a third in what's called bits. The main reason being is that it's pretty much an unwritten rule that the play ad button should never be done or touched by partnered streamers. It's never used. Even during lunch and bathroom breaks. They'd rather just get out of their chair and just let it be a chair stream. So, bits for cheering was introduced as a method of supporting a streamer, but more importantly, it also gave an option for the viewers to force themselves to watch an ad. I do believe that was the end goal of the bits. You could buy bits, or you could watch an ad and gain a small amount of bits. Usually between 5, and I think the most I ever gotten was I got a full 100 for watching an ad. Alright? And granted, the bits themselves was a pretty lame animated emote. It was just dancing shapes. Nobody cared. The funniest thing was actually, I don't even know what the service is, but a lot of the partnered streamers have a cup out on their overlay. And when people cheer with the bits then fall into the cup. And a lot of people would just start doing like a bunch of 1-cent cheers. And then someone would drop $1 and the thing would just go in there and make it fly everywhere. Okay? That was the whole point of bits, I believe. What Twitch announced is what's called Cheermotes. These are animated emotes that are now used in replacement of normal bits. And it uses 3 of Twitch's most iconic emotes: Kappa, Craigasm, and Swift Rage. If you don't know what Kappa is, I don't know how to explain Kappa. Go research on your own what Kappa is, and then let me know what rock you are living under. Craigasm is the orgasm face. Swift Rage is the angry face looking to the left. Or the right, depending on your perspective. And there's 5 tiers, I believe, of each. 1 bit, 100 bits, 1,000 bits, and 10,000 bits. So these were released. These are now live. You can go to partnered streams and use these emotes if you have the bits. And as I said before, you can either pay real money for bits, or you can force an ad break upon yourself and earn bits that way. As much as I like the idea, the more I've thought about it, the fact that these can force someone to watch an ad break as they wish, rather than having a streamer force an ad break upon someone. Oh my god. The winking Kappa, the rainbow mouth Craigasm, and on fire Swift Rage. Oh god, it's gonna get really obnoxious really quick, isn't it? I actually do wonder how many of the streamers before that were kind of not really fans of bits in the first place might actually disable bits on their stream because of how obnoxious these guys might get pretty quickly. But that's the world we live in. And that's going to do it for me and for the year as far as news goes. Please do subscribe here to this podcast. Thank you all for listening. As I said before, there is no podcast on the 24th. I will be back on the 31st with the prediction show. Take care, everyone.